Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining in this ongoing series on Rahu and Ketu, where we are discussing the impact of the nodes and the houses. And today we will be looking at Rahu in the ninth house. But then before we go into the meat of the topic, kindly subscribe to the channel, share the content with your friends and family if you find it useful, and do let me know your feedback in the comment section. So Rahu in the ninth house, the name of the serpent. Rahu, of course, represents the head of the serpent. When Rahu goes to the ninth house, the tail of the serpent will be in the third house, and the name of the serpent as a whole is known as Shankachura. Okay, so Shankachura as a Kalasarpa, or the great serpent of time, may be imagined as a whip or a goad capable of driving horses to speed or urging troops into battle. And there is a great conviction of the righteousness of Shankachura's cause. Okay, and convinced by this righteousness, Shankachura is capable of inspiring others into action, even if he promotes something which is antithetical to dharma. So you see, people with Rahu in the ninth house, they will always try to promote or build their own understanding of religion, even if it means going against conventions of the society. And there is often a focus on foreign travel, sibling rivalry for paternal recognition, unique ways of doing things, and unconventionality in general. And such a native can be a charismatic preacher, professor or politician who uses a religious or philosophical doctrine to promote himself or herself in the name of his or her cause. And as such, these people, they have the capacity to channel the aspirations of people and whip the masses into a religious or political fervor. And these people may be obliged to endure frequent changes of fortune, including interruptions to higher education as well as legal complications. So how does Rahu in the ninth house behave? Let's have a look at that. In my experience, Rahu in the ninth house does little, but it muddies the pursuit of dharma and right conduct, because it is a malefic, having more to do with material and sensual satisfaction rather than moral education or spiritual development. Rahu, as a whole, represents desire and obsession, and Ketu denotes ambivalence and detachment. And with Rahu in the ninth, Ketu will come to the third house, as I said, and this will create a bias for dogmatic beliefs and religious fervor, or a desire to be seen as a moral or spiritual authority, sometimes at the cost of one's relationships with siblings, as well as the normal flow of communications between peers and team members. The ninth house rules the thighs and hips, and since Rahu is a vata provoking malefic, it can bring pain and neuralgia to that part of the body. For example, sciatica is pain that affects the back, hip, or outer thigh, which is caused by compression of a spinal nerve in the lower back. And Rahu always represents foreign objects. It can indicate prosthetics or replacement parts. And as such, the native with Rahu in the ninth house may be a candidate for hip replacement surgery. The ninth house is dharma, okay, or right conduct. And what does Jupiter tell us? Jupiter has the philosophy that you should follow dharma and you will never come to harm. Dharmo raksha rakshati. Okay, one who protects dharma, one who follows dharma is always protected by dharma itself. But then Rahu does not listen to any guru. Okay, Rahu will always put the ego first, indulging in things that make the native happy. So Rahu acts instinctually as well as, innovatively to take whatever it needs. For example, if hungry, it'll eat. If aroused, it'll fornicate. If angry, it'll kill. But in doing so, it risks killing that part of human nature, our moral code, okay, that separates us from animals. Rahu also reflects obsessions. And because the ninth represents principles, it includes moral, political, or spiritual doctrine. And because Rahu acts as a proxy of Saturn, combining the influence of any planets with whom it sits, it can act as a lightning rod for multiple effects. Because Rahu is a malefic, the native could become a firebrand, a rebel ruler, a demagogue, a person who uses a public platform to rant about the issues that stoke his fire. However, under the best of circumstances, such a native may have a flair for innovation, unconventionality, as well as a unique way of doing things. Remember, Rahu always represents out of the box thinking. Now, Rahu also represents things that one craves for. So, in the ninth house, it can indicate the native's desire for any number of things. The father, maybe who was absent while the native was growing up, a teacher to guide him or her in studies, maybe higher education to prepare his or her career, or a forum, for example, broadcast, publishing, social media, and so on, to share his ideas with the world. And in the house of the father, Rahu suggests one who is someone of a rebel. Okay, so the native's father may be eccentric or kooky, full of strange ideas, exhibiting old behaviors. Such a person may be susceptible to substance abuse. He or she may be a risk taker and a taboo breaker, following his or her obsessions down various paths. Low class behaviors, offbeat travels, Dvija, which refers to born again, okay, radical politics and extramarital license. And at his best, the native could be an innovator, someone forging new trails for others to follow. But at his worst, these people could be total misfits, a rebel rouser, as I said, a fanatic who is bent on sweeping aside moral conventions to violate principles of law and religion. Rahu in the ninth will cast a shadow not only over the father, but over all father figures, whether kings, politicians, or celebrities. And such people in the life of the native are amplified, exaggerated, or inflated. And as father figures, their currency is autocracy, self-entitlement and self-righteousness. And since Rahu is a surrogate, such a native may have a stepfather or place all his faith and belief in a strongman politician who fulfills his need for a powerful father figure. The native may not get along with his or her siblings either. And even if he does, such a native will not be able to run a business with them. At the very root, there may be a sibling rivalry based on restoring a relationship with a lost father. Such a native alone needs to prove himself or herself capable, and siblings cannot be a part of their success. In the ninth house, Rahu will always seek material success more than knowledge. And as such, Rahu's placement in the ninth house is sometimes incongruous as far as higher education is concerned. University studies, rather than being viewed as an expansion of intellectual horizons, may be regarded largely as an expedient means to gain admission to a labor market with higher salaries or greater prospect for promotion. And because Rahu associates with foreigners, in the ninth house, Rahu can indicate the subject matter of higher education. Okay, it can also indicate the locale of higher education. Okay, and if it does, then that's a signature for study at an international university. As far as subjects are concerned, they may include anthropology, okay, foreign languages, international studies, and science in general. And because Rahu is irregular, there may be setbacks in such programs. For example, change of major or interruption of studies, change of thesis supervisor, or difficulties in getting one's thesis accepted or published. And because Rahu is an imposter, in some cases, this can indicate a native whose academic credentials are not genuine or bona fide. With Rahu in the ninth house, such a native has a compulsion to live by a righteous belief. Okay, these people are very fascinated by philosophy, obsessed with finding a doctrine to guide them through life. And if convinced of the merits of such a belief, these natives may become zealots in promoting it. Okay, so ideology looms large in their worldview. Now, people with Rahu in the ninth are also drawn to fields that promote strict codes of conduct. For example, religious ceremonies, spiritual rituals, sacred teachings, anything involving indoctrination into a set of beliefs. And because Rahu tends to exaggerate, the native may be compulsively dogmatic about following things to the letter. Okay. Rahu is both foreign and unorthodox. Okay, and as such, the native is attracted to ideologies that are distinctly different from his or her upbringing. So as a result, things can go easily, things can easily go awry, resulting in affiliations with exotic guru figures or fraudulent priests or tantric masters or magicians and charlatans who may adulterate their teachings of dharma with notions of financial or sexual surrender. And such a native may want to acquire or demonstrate ideological authority, for example, as a father figure, guru, or guide, or imam, mentor, or minister, or a patriarch, or a patron, or a pontiff, preacher, priest, professor, pandit, rabbi, or teacher, whatever you can think of. Okay, so such a native will often seek a pulpit from which to preach his chosen doctrine. And if that is not available via the usual forums of education and religion, then such a native may gravitate towards politics, where ideologies of all kinds, even radical ones, usually find a receptive audience. And such a native can be very charismatic in promoting his cause. He can channel the aspirations of people and whip the masses into a religious or political fervor. And once comfortable in such a role, the native is at a risk of becoming a self-righteous demagogue, as I said. But then ultimately, such a person may want to be seen as a holy person. But the very existence of his desire muddies the water, because a truly holy person does not want to be holy. A truly holy person is simply holy. So that becomes a cause of dilemma for the native, because now the native has a need for respect or maybe worship, and that need for respect or worship is so obsessive that it can lead to misconduct. And as the old saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So as a result, the native may become a, consummate posher, cloaking his ambition with a veneer of philosophy and doctrine, saying, do as I say, not what I do. And as a result, such a native may end up practicing what other than what he or she preaches, and may come across as a hypocrite, concerned more with achieving the semblance of spirituality than in practicing it. Okay, for example, you can include the yoga teacher who smokes cigarettes, or the priest who enjoys porn, maybe, or the ethics professor who sleeps with his students, or the sports trainer who uses steroids, or the politician who who takes bribe, or the guru who demands financial donations from his followers, or the judge whose rulings can be bought, okay, who is easily compromised, that is. Rahu in the ninth can also suggest a guru who is a non-traditionalist. Okay, for example, tantrics are seen as operating outside a mainstream Hinduism because they intentionally violate so many traditional precepts of proper conduct. Some tantrics are accused of smoking tobacco, drinking alcohol, and eating meat. And as such, they integrate and transcend the very things that are considered poison to a non-violent or a traditional Hindu. Now, if Jupiter joins this Rahu in the ninth, it'll form a Guru Chandal Yoga. And Chandal is, of course, a derogatory term. It represents the one who works at the cremation grounds. And Jupiter represents our moral code. And similarly, Rahu represents our instinctual desires. And because these two principles are incompatible, this planetary combination reflects how our nature might sink to its lowest level while satisfying our own self-interests. Okay, so it's a very tricky combination to maneuver if one has Rahu in the ninth house. So that was my analysis of this placement. Do let me know if it agrees with you, if you have this placement, or if anyone you know has this placement. And as I said, please leave behind your feedback in the comment section. As always, if you want a consultation regarding your chart, you're always free to reach out at the given number. That's it from me. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.